Shounen. Shounen has changed. Ever since the time that Kosuke Ueki made his appearance back in 2005, there have been plenty of shonen series that came out and kind of established their position in the Shonen Hall of Fame. Most of those, including stuff like Fullmetal Alchemist Brotherhood, Hunter x Hunter, Assassination Classroom, all of them kind of hold up really well even in 2020. But does that hold true for the Law of Ueki as well? Watch this review to find out. Let's start off with the story. Our story here revolves around the life of Kosuke Ueki, who is given this strange but weirdly creative power of turning trash into trees by Mr. Kobayashi, who is his homeroom teacher. Mr. K, or Mr. Kobayashi, is basically his god candidate. Ueki, with the power that he has to sort of now compete with other candidates who have been given similar powers by their god candidates, and they all fight in order to win this thingy called blank talent, where it's kind of a wish granting thing. And other than that, they also compete in order to give their god candidates a promotion to the seat of God Almighty. If you boil it down, it's basically a big ass tournament arc. Where the future of the world is decided by the winner. And obviously, since supernatural powers are involved here, harming civvies is a no-go. All the characters here in this show kind of start off with this predefined number of talents that they possess. The talent to study, the talent to be able to run properly, the talent to be liked by girls. Just think of something random and consider it to be a talent that you possess. Now these talents are kind of used as the limiting factor for these powerful individuals. They're used in a way that, okay, so you have a power, you have a certain amount of talents. If you use a power on a civilian, you lose your talents, and if you run out of all of your talents, then you're basically wiped off the face of the earth, and that's it for you. Ueki, being the protagonist, he kind of starts the entire battle on a very disadvantageous situation, because he's not the type who really gives a shit about harming people. If it all comes down to just using your powers for a good deed, he doesn't give a shit. The show already has Ueki in a disadvantageous and underdog-like position, where most of his opponents start off with around, 150 to 200 talents, or maybe even more, and Ueki starts off with 10. It's all about establishing the high stakes here. Now, if you noticed, all the characters that I've talked about, the ones who get the powers, are high school students. It sounds silly as hell, the fact that the high school students, those silly people who don't really know what to do in their life, they are the ones who decide the fate of the universe, or the fate of this world specifically. But it is enough to say that the show is super self-aware and kind of knows that this entire premise is a little bit silly, and there is a very specific reason behind it, and the show definitely tells you about why the fate of the entire world is now in the hands of high school students, and it's a treat to watch. But yeah, that's about it for the story. Let's talk about the characters. Okay, let's talk about Ueki, because he is the main character of the show. He's a selfless, lovable goofball who basically just has two things in his mind at all times. One, to always be there for his nakama and just help them out whenever they need him. And two, to always uphold the sense of justice that he has. Over the course of the story, Ueki eventually runs into other characters of the show as well, who basically become his nakama. We already know that Ueki, being the main character, will definitely get a lot of time to shine, and he's kind of the most fleshed out character of the show. But other than him, the other nakama that he has, among them, I would personally say that Mori Ai is the most prominent character of the show. She's kind of a character that I absolutely could not stand at the beginning of the show, but I just eventually warmed up to her the more I watched the show, and the more I kind of saw about her as a character. She was a little annoying initially because her voice sounded very high pitched. And most of the jokes that she kind of was a part of did not land very well for me. But after a certain point, I did not seem to mind her voice at all, and most of her jokes seemed very funny to me. I don't know what happened, but I just started to like Ai Mori. The other characters are not as prominent as her, but it's kind of safe to say that they also get their share of development. They're decent enough and they do their job well. But yeah, Ueki being the central character, he's kind of the most fleshed out. And it all ties back into the abnormal sense of justice that he has. Now, the reason behind his abnormally strong sense of justice isn't something that is discussed in the initial 5 or 6 episodes of the series. And that kind of makes him seem like a little bit of a stereotypical shonen main character. And not very interesting, to be honest. But rest assured that the show eventually reveals all of those things to you, and it kind of just ends up tying a lot of loose ends in your head. I'd even go as far as to say that this is kind of a general theme with the series as a whole. There will be a lot of times when you think, huh, the writer totally forgot about this. And for a lot of time, you actually will be right, and you will smugly think to yourself that I totally called it, the writer forgot about this. And then, out of the blue, the writer will just hit you, bam! You thought, bitch, I completely remembered all of that. I was just waiting for you to think smugly about, just you being right and me being wrong. That is not how it works. I am the motherfucking writer. Now, that is where I personally feel that the show really shines. It has this strong tendency to catch you off guard and, just repeat this phenomena over and over and over again. The mere fact that the show is able to address most, if not all of your questions by the time the credit rolls, is just a testament to its solid writing. But that still doesn't take away from the fact that, a lot of times some plot threads just seem a little bit forced. Take the battle mechanics, for example. A lot of times you will just see that, okay, here is this power system that we have, and you think as a viewer that this is what is going to be followed throughout the entirety of its run, and you would be totally wrong, because the writer does not stick to this. He introduces something else, and then you'll think that, okay, this is the one that he's gonna stick, maybe he's gonna combine these two and just gonna stick with these two, and then you would be wrong again, because then he introduces something else. It kind of brings a novelty factor as well, but then there's also the fact that there's absolutely no foreshadowing in place, I personally think, and it kind of just comes out of the left field a little bit too much, too often. And now that we are talking about the issues that it has, there's also this typical anime issue that a lot of other anime in general also face, where characters get damaged, they get hit by heavy ass things, but they don't show any blood, like there's no visible damage as such. And that happens far too often in Law of Ueki for me to really like it, and it just breaks immersion, to be honest. I'm gonna be honest, I know it's a shonen anime, it's supposed to be airing at a specific time slot, but come on dude, doesn't make sense. Look at the kind of weapons that these guys hold and the kind of weapons that they use, and it does not make sense at all. And then there is the comedy. It does grow on you after a certain point of time, but the comedy I personally feel can be a little bit of a hit and miss for most people. Other than these things, I don't really think there's much else that I can nitpick and complain about. It has a solid art style and decent animation most of the time. Its openings are fucking bangers. Like, they are some of the best openings that I've ever seen in anime as a medium. Holy fucking shit. And the soundtrack works well in general. Add to that package a story that's very competently written for the most part, and decently written characters, and you've got something that I would just wholeheartedly recommend to most people out there. The Law of Ueki, on my personal scale, is a 8 out of 10. And I would definitely recommend to most people who are in the mood for watching a classic shonen out there. And yes, if you're still wondering what the answer to the question that I asked at the beginning of the video was, the answer is a resounding yes. Law of Ueki definitely holds up even in 2020, and it's a worthwhile watch. Do go watch it, you're gonna have a good time with it. But yeah, that's all for the review. If you like this video, please do like and share, and even subscribe. I would honestly appreciate that a lot. I'm definitely working on some new projects right now, and they're gonna be interesting to say the least. So the safest way for you to, keep track of everything that I'm sort of gonna be coming up with, the interesting stuff, just sub and press the bell and press that bell icon that you see over there.
Hello, darkness, my old friend.
So that you don't miss any of those. Okay, that's all I guess. Gonna see you guys in the next one. VClyfe out. Bye.